The warning alarms screamed through every corridor of Kepler Station as Commander Zethkar watched his world fall apart. The massive space station orbited the gas giant Kepler 442b like a metal moon, but now it shook under the endless attack from the Vrak Dominion fleet. Red lights flashed everywhere as another explosion rocked the outer hull. Zethkar gripped the railing of the command center as sparks flew from damaged control panels. His blue skin had turned pale with fear and exhaustion. The Althari commander had been fighting this battle for 6 hours now, and his defenses were almost gone. Through the large windows, he could see the enemy ships moving closer like hungry predators. The Vrak fleet was huge and terrible. 30 black warships hung in space around the station, their weapons firing non-stop. Each ship was 3 times larger than anything the peaceful species of this sector had ever built. The Vrak lived for war and conquest, and they had been destroying entire worlds for decades. Dr. Lyra Voss ran into the command center, her long red hair flying behind her. She was the station's chief scientist and one of the smartest people in the galaxy. Her hands shook as she held a data pad filled with secret research. "Commander, I need more time to destroy the energy research files," she said, breathing hard. "If the Vrak get this technology, they will be unstoppable." Zethkar looked at the tactical display. Only 2 of his 12 defense turrets were still working. His shields were down to 8% power. The station held over 10,000 civilians from 12 different species, all refugees who had fled from other Vrak attacks. Men, women, and children who had already lost their homes once before. "How much time do you need?" Zethkar asked, though he already knew the answer would be too long. "At least 20 minutes to completely wipe everything," Dr. Voss replied. "The quantum encryption is very complex." Another massive blast shook the station. The lights went out for a moment before the emergency power kicked in. Through the communication system, they could hear screams and crying from the civilian sections. Families were huddling together in the shelters, praying for a miracle that would never come. Lieutenant Kexra, Zethkar's second-in-command, looked up from his console with fear in his 4 eyes. "Sir, the last defense turret just went offline. We have no weapons left. The Vrak are launching boarding pods." Zethkar felt his heart sink. The boarding pods were small ships filled with Vrak soldiers. They would attach to the station's hull and cut their way inside. The Vrak never took prisoners. They killed everyone and took whatever they wanted. On the main screen, he could see the evil ships of the Vrak fleet. Each one was covered in spikes and armor, painted black like death itself. War leader Krax commanded the fleet from his flagship, a massive vessel called the Iron Fang. Krax was known throughout the galaxy as a monster who enjoyed destroying peaceful worlds. "Sir, what are your orders?" Lieutenant Kexra asked quietly. Zethkar looked around the command center at his brave crew. They had all volunteered to stay and fight even though they knew they would probably die. These were good people who believed in protecting the innocent. But what could they do against such overwhelming force? Dr. Voss was still working frantically at her console, trying to delete the research data. The new energy technology could power entire fleets of warships. In the wrong hands, it would give the Vrak the ability to conquer the entire galaxy. She had to destroy it, even if it meant destroying years of work. "Send out a distress signal on all frequencies," Zethkar ordered. He knew it was hopeless, but he had to try. "Tell anyone listening that Kepler Station is under attack. We have civilians aboard, including women and children. Request immediate assistance." Lieutenant Kexra nodded and began broadcasting the message. His voice was steady and professional, even though his hands were shaking. "This is Kepler Station to any vessel in range. We are under attack by the Vrak Dominion. We have over 10,000 civilians aboard. Our defenses have failed. We need immediate help. Please respond." The message went out into the cold darkness of space, traveling at light speed to distant stars. But Zethkar knew that no help would come. The nearest Allied fleet was 3 days away. Even if they left right now, they would arrive to find only wreckage and bodies. Through the windows, he could see the first boarding pods attaching to the station's lower levels. Bright sparks showed where Vrak soldiers were cutting through the hull with plasma torches. Soon they would be inside, and the slaughter would begin. Dr. Voss looked up from her console with tears in her eyes. "I need 15 more minutes, Commander. The files are fighting the deletion process." 15 minutes they did not have. The Vrak would be through the hull in 5 minutes, maybe less. Once inside, they would spread through the station like a plague, killing everyone they found. Zethkar closed his eyes and tried to think of some way to save his people. That was when something impossible appeared on the long-range sensors. Far out at the edge of the system, a massive energy signature had just materialized from nowhere. Something big was coming, something the sensors could not identify. Deep in space, far from the battle at Kepler Station, the human warship USS Liberty moved through the darkness like a silent predator. The massive vessel was over a mile long and bristled with weapons that had never been tested in real combat. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the stars through the main view screen. Jake was a tall man with short brown hair and calm green eyes. He had been in the human space navy for 15 years, but this was his first command of a ship this large. The Liberty was humanity's newest and most powerful warship, equipped with technology that the rest of the galaxy had never seen. "Captain, we're receiving some kind of transmission," said Lieutenant Lisa Carter from her station. Lisa was the ship's communication and language expert. She had spent years studying alien languages and cultures, preparing for the day when humanity would finally make contact with other species. Jake walked over to her console. "What kind of transmission?" Lisa's fingers moved quickly over her controls, trying to decode the strange signals. "It's definitely alien, sir. Multiple species are involved. I'm picking up at least 3 different languages, but they're all saying the same thing. It's a distress call." "Put it through the translator," Jake ordered. The bridge filled with the sound of alien voices, desperate and afraid. The computer worked to translate their words into English. "This is Kepler Station 2, any vessel in range. We are under attack by the Vrak Dominion. We have over 10,000 civilians aboard. Our defenses have failed. We need immediate help." Jake felt his blood run cold. He had heard stories about the Vrak through intercepted communications. They were a brutal species that conquered worlds and killed entire populations. The human government had been watching them for years, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves to the galaxy. "How far away is this Kepler station?" Jake asked. Chief Navigator Tony Rodriguez checked his instruments. Tony was a short, stocky man who could plot a course through the most dangerous parts of space. "About 6 hours at maximum speed, Captain, but we would have to use the new hyperspace drive." Jake thought quickly. The hyperspace drive was still experimental. It could get them there fast, but it might also damage the ship or worse. However, 10,000 innocent people were about to die if no one helped them. "Sir, I'm also detecting something else," said Lieutenant Kate Sullivan from the tactical station. Kate was the ship's weapons officer, a blonde woman with sharp blue eyes who could hit any target. "The attackers are using energy signatures consistent with Vrak technology. 30 ships, all heavily armed." Jake activated his communication link to Earth. The quantum transmitter could reach home instantly, no matter how far away they were. Admiral Sam Hughes appeared on the screen, his weathered face serious and thoughtful. "Admiral, we've intercepted a distress call from an alien station under attack by the Vrak," Jake reported. 10,000 civilians are about to be slaughtered. Request permission to engage." Admiral Hughes was quiet for a long moment. This would be humanity's first official contact with alien species. For decades, they had remained hidden while they developed their technology and prepared for this day. "Captain Morrison, you are authorized to engage. Show them what humanity stands for." "Understood, sir." Morrison out. Jake turned to face his crew. These were good people who had volunteered for this dangerous mission. They knew they might never see Earth again, but they believed in protecting the innocent wherever they might be. "All hands, this is the captain," Jake announced over the ship's communication system. "We have received a distress call from aliens, under attack. We are going to help them. This will be humanity's first contact with other species. Make us proud." Chief Engineer Danny Phillips worked quickly in the engine room to prepare the hyperspace drive. Danny was a genius with machines and could make any piece of technology work better than it was designed to. His hands moved over the controls as he activated humanity's most advanced propulsion system. "Hyperspace drive is ready, Captain," Danny reported. "But I have to warn you, we've never tested it at this distance. The ship might not hold together." "We'll take that risk," Jake replied. "All stations report ready." One by one, his officers confirmed they were prepared for battle. Lisa had programmed the universal translator to handle multiple alien languages. Kate had charged all weapons and prepared the targeting systems. Tony had plotted the fastest course to Kepler Station. Dr. Susan Blake, the ship's medical officer, was preparing the sickbay for casualties. Susan was a kind woman who had volunteered for this mission because she wanted to help anyone who needed medical care, human or alien. "Engage hyperspace drive," Jake ordered. The Liberty disappeared from normal space in a flash of blue light. The experimental drive pushed the massive ship through dimensions that human science barely understood. Space twisted around them as they raced toward the distant battle. Inside the ship, the crew held on as the vessel shook and groaned under the stress. Warning lights flashed as systems overloaded and backup power kicked in. But Chief Phillips had built the ship well and it held together. "Time to arrival?" Jake asked. 30 minutes, Captain," Tony replied, sweat beading on his forehead. "The drive is working, but it's pushing every system to the limit." Jake nodded and sat down in his command chair. In 30 minutes, they would either save 10,000 innocent lives or die trying. He had no idea what kind of weapons the Vrak had or how many ships they would face. But he knew his crew was ready. As the Liberty raced through hyperspace toward its first battle, Jake thought about all the years of preparation that had led to this moment. Humanity had watched from the shadows as evil species like the Vrak destroyed entire civilizations. Today, that would end. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath as the human warship prepared to announce itself to the galaxy. The Liberty dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system like an avenging angel emerging from the void. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge and watched in horror as the battle unfolded before them. The alien space station was surrounded by black Vrak warships that fired their weapons without mercy. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Lisa Carter as she saw the destruction on her sensors. "They're killing the escape pods." Through the main view screen, Jake could see small ships trying to flee the station. The Vrak vessels were hunting them down one by one, destroying them with precise laser fire. Men, women, and children were dying in the cold vacuum of space while the attackers watched without emotion. "Captain, I count 30 Vrak ships," reported Lieutenant Kate Sullivan from the weapons station. "They have the station completely surrounded. Long-range scans show the station's shields are almost gone." Jake felt anger building in his chest. He had read the reports about the Vrak and their cruelty, but seeing it happen was different. These monsters were slaughtering innocent people for no reason other than conquest and greed. "Take us in using stealth mode," Jake ordered. "I want to get as close as possible before they know we're here." Chief Navigator Tony Rodriguez activated the Liberty's advanced cloaking system. The human ship seemed to fade from existence as its hull absorbed all electromagnetic radiation. To the Vrak sensors, they would appear as nothing more than empty space. The Liberty moved through the asteroid field that surrounded the gas giant, using the floating rocks as cover. Jake watched the tactical display as they approached the battle. The Vrak ships were spread out around the station, taking their time with the destruction like cats playing with wounded mice. "Sir, I'm reading massive energy signatures from the Vrak flagship," Kate reported. They're preparing to fire some kind of superweapon. On the screen, the largest Vrak ship powered up a weapon that glowed with evil red light. Jake realized they were planning to destroy the entire station in one shot. 10,000 innocent lives would be snuffed out in an instant. That's enough, Jake said quietly. All weapons online. Target the flagship first. The Liberty's weapon systems came to life with deadly purpose. Railguns loaded with tungsten projectiles that could punch through any armor. Quantum torpedoes that could crack a moon in half. Pulse lasers that fired faster than the eye could. Follow. We have target lock on all enemy vessels, Kate announced. Jake activated the communication system and broadcast on all frequencies. His voice carried the authority of humanity itself as it reached both the attackers and their victims. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel Liberty. You are attacking civilians under our protection. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed. The effect was instant and dramatic. Every ship in the battle zone suddenly stopped what they were doing. On Kepler Station, Commander Zethkar stared at his sensors in amazement. A massive ship had appeared from nowhere, larger than any Vrak vessel and completely unknown to their databases. War Leader Krax responded from his flagship. With the arrogance typical of his species, his voice was harsh and filled with contempt. What pathetic species dares to challenge the might of the Vrak Dominion? Identify yourself or be destroyed. Jake's response was swift and merciless. You have your answer. The Liberty opened fire. With everything it had, railgun projectiles screamed through space at incredible speed, slamming into Vrak ships and punching straight through their armor. The enemy vessels had never faced weapons like these, and their shields collapsed instantly. 3 Vrak cruisers exploded in the first volley, turned into expanding clouds of metal and fire. The quantum torpedoes followed a second later, each one containing enough energy to level a city. When they hit their targets, entire sections of Vrak ships simply ceased to exist. Commander Zethkar watched in amazement as the mysterious human ship moved through the battle like a dancing predator. It used the gas giant's gravity well to sling, itself around at impossible angles, always staying one step ahead of the enemy weapons. The Vrak tried to fight back, but their weapons seemed primitive compared to human technology. Their plasma bolts and fusion missiles struck the Liberty's shields and were absorbed harmlessly. The human ship had been designed to fight multiple enemies at once. Dr. Lyra Voss had stopped trying to delete her research files and was now watching the battle through the station's sensors. Who are these humans? She asked in wonder. I've never seen technology like this. Lieutenant Kate Sullivan worked her weapons console like a master musician playing a deadly symphony. Each shot was perfectly aimed, each target carefully chosen. She disabled the Vrak ship's weapons first, then their engines, leaving them helpless in space. Chief Engineer Danny Phillips monitored the ship's systems from the engine room. The Liberty was performing better than anyone had hoped. All the years of careful design and testing were paying off in this first real battle. Enemy ships are trying to retreat, Tony reported from navigation. Let them go, Jake ordered. But make sure they know what happens if they come back. The Liberty fired a final volley that destroyed 5 more Vrak ships. The remaining vessels fled toward the edge of the system as fast as their damaged engines could carry them. In less than 10 minutes, the human ship had completely destroyed or routed an entire Vrak fleet. War Leader Krax's flagship was the last to retreat, its hull scarred and smoking from multiple hits. As it limped away, Krax broadcast one final message filled with rage and humiliation. This is not over, humans. The Dominion will remember this insult. Jake watched the enemy ships disappear into hyperspace before turning his attention to the damaged station. Kepler Station was badly hurt, but still intact. Thousands of lives had been saved because one human ship had arrived at the right moment. Open. A channel to the station, Jake ordered. Commander Zethkar appeared on the main screen, his blue face showing amazement and gratitude. Behind him, Dr. Lyra Voss and other station personnel stared at the humans with wonder and relief. "This is Commander Zethkar of Kepler Station," the alien said in accented but clear English. "We owe you our lives, Captain Morrison. How can we ever repay such a debt?" Jake smiled for the first time since the battle began. "No debt is owed, Commander. We just did what was right." War Leader Krax stood on the bridge of his damaged flagship, the Iron Fang, as it limped through space toward the edge of the system. His 4 red eyes burned with rage and humiliation. Never in his long career of conquest had any species dared to challenge the Vrak Dominion, let alone defeat them so completely. The human ship had appeared from nowhere and destroyed half his fleet in minutes. Krax's own vessel was barely holding together, its hull cracked and systems failing. Smoke filled the bridge as his officers worked frantically to keep the ship operational. "War Leader, the retreat vector is plotted," reported his navigation officer, fear clear in his voice. Krax turned to stare at the human ship through the main view screen. The Liberty hung in space near the alien station like a protective guardian. Its sleek hull showed no damage from the battle, while his own mighty fleet had been scattered like leaves in a storm. "No," Krax growled, his massive fists clenching in fury. "I will not retreat in shame before these unknown creatures. His weapons." Officer looked up nervously from his console. "Sir, our weapons are badly damaged. We have no chance against their technology." Krax backhanded the officer across the bridge, sending him crashing into a wall. "Then we use the planet killer," he snarled. "If I cannot have this system, no one can." The bridge crew froze in terror. The planet killer was the Vrak's most terrible weapon, designed to crack worlds apart from the inside. It had only been used 3 times in Dominion history, and each time it had destroyed entire solar systems. "Sir, the weapon is not ready," protested the chief engineer. "It needs at least an hour to charge." "Then make it ready in 30 minutes, Krax roared. "I would rather see this system burn than let these humans claim victory." Aboard the Liberty, Captain Jake Morrison was coordinating rescue efforts with Kepler Station when Lieutenant Kate Sullivan detected the massive energy buildup on the Vrak flagship. Her face went pale as she read the sensor data. "Captain, the enemy flagship is charging some kind of massive weapon," Kate reported urgently. "The energy readings are off the scale. Whatever they're planning, it's big enough to destroy planets." Jake felt ice form in his stomach. Through the communication link with Commander Zethkar, he could see the alien's face fill with horror as his own sensors detected the threat. "The planet killer," Zethkar whispered. "I have heard stories, but never believed they actually built such a thing." Dr. Lyra Voss pushed forward on the station's bridge, her scientific mind already calculating the terrible possibilities. "If they fire that weapon at the gas giant, the chain reaction will destroy everything in this system. The station, your ship, all the escape pods still in space." Jake made his decision in an instant. "Tony, plot an intercept course with that flagship. Kate, charge all weapons and prepare for ramming speed." "Sir, we can't destroy a weapon that powerful with conventional attack," Kate protested. "The energy readings suggest it's some kind of quantum singularity device." "Then we put ourselves between it and the station," Jake replied grimly. "If we can absorb the blast with our shields, maybe we can save everyone else." "Chief Engineer." Danny Phillips' voice came over the communication system from the engine room. "Captain, our shields are strong, but they're not designed to take that kind of punishment. If we try to block a planet-killer weapon, it will destroy us." "That's a risk I'm willing to take," Jake said quietly. "We didn't come here to let innocent people die." The Liberty surged forward through space toward the Vrak flagship. Jake could see on the tactical display that the enemy weapon was almost ready to fire. Red energy swirled around the Iron Fang like liquid fire as the planet killer charged too, full power. Commander Zethkar watched in amazement as the human ship deliberately placed itself in harm's way. "Captain Morrison, you cannot sacrifice yourself for us. We are strangers to your species." "No one is a stranger when they need help," Jake replied, his hands gripping the arms of his command chair. All hands. Brace for impact. The planet killer fired with the force of a collapsing star. A beam of pure destruction lanced across space, carrying enough energy to crack a world in half. The Liberty met it head-on, its forward shields blazing with incredible light as they absorbed the terrible attack. The human ship shuddered and groaned under the assault. Sparks flew from control panels as systems overloaded. The lights went out for long seconds before emergency power kicked in. In the engine room, Danny fought to keep the shields stable as energy readings went beyond anything the ship was designed to handle. Dr. Susan Blake worked frantically in the medical bay as injured crew members were brought in. The ship's artificial. Gravity fluctuated wildly, making it hard to treat the wounded. But she never stopped working, determined to save every life she could. Lieutenant Lisa Carter managed to maintain communication with the station throughout the attack. Her translator systems were overloaded but still functional, allowing her to coordinate with Commander Zethkar's rescue teams. For 30 seconds that felt like hours, the Liberty held firm against the planet killer. Its shields absorbed energies that could have destroyed worlds, protecting everyone behind it. The ship's hull glowed white-hot from the strain, but it did not break. When the weapon finally exhausted itself, the Liberty was still there. Damaged and scarred, but alive and intact. The shields had held just long enough to save the system. War Leader Krax stared in disbelief at his sensors. The planet killer had fired at full power, yet somehow the human ship had survived. It was impossible by every law of physics he knew. How? He whispered in shock. His answer came in the form of quantum torpedoes from the Liberty. Even damaged, the human ship still had enough fight left to finish what it started. The torpedoes punched through the Iron Fang's weakened shields and detonated inside the flagship's hull. War Leader Krax died, still trying to understand how these unknown humans had defeated the might of the Vrak Dominion. His ship exploded in a ball of fire that lit up the entire system. Jake slumped back in his command chair as the immediate threat ended. Around him, his crew worked to repair damaged systems and tend to the wounded. They had won, but the price had been high. Damage report, Jake ordered wearily. Forward shields are completely gone, Kate reported. We have hull breaches on 3 decks and the main engines are offline. But we're alive, sir. Through the view screen, Jake could see rescue ships from Kepler Station approaching. The aliens were coming to help their saviors, just as the humans had helped them. Commander Zethkar stood in the docking bay of Kepler Station as the first alien rescue shuttle arrived from the human ship. The Liberty floated nearby, its hull scarred and blackened from the planet killer attack, but still proudly intact. Steam vented from damaged sections where emergency crews worked to patch hull breaches. The shuttle door opened with a soft hiss, and Zethkar got his first close look at the beings who had saved his people. Captain Jake Morrison stepped out, his uniform torn and a bandage across his forehead from the battle. Behind him came Dr. Susan Blake carrying medical supplies, and Chief Engineer Danny Phillips with repair equipment. Zethkar had expected the humans to be large and fierce like most warrior species. Instead, he saw beings not much bigger than himself, with soft skin and kind eyes. Jake was tall, but moved with quiet confidence, rather than aggressive swagger. Susan was small and gentle, already looking around to see who needed medical help. Captain Morrison, Zethkar said formally, trying to follow proper diplomatic protocol. I am Commander Zethkar of the Althari people. On behalf of all 10,000 souls aboard this station, I thank you for saving our lives. Jake stepped forward and extended his hand in the human gesture of greeting. Please, just call me Jake. We're glad we could help. Zethkar had studied human customs during the rescue operation and carefully shook Jake's hand. The human's grip was firm but not crushing, another sign that these were people who controlled their strength. Dr. Lyra Voss hurried into the docking bay, her red hair still messy from the battle, She had been working non-stop to help coordinate the rescue efforts between the station and the Liberty. Her scientific mind was buzzing with questions about human technology. "Captain, your ship's shield technology is incredible," she said excitedly. "According to our sensors, you absorbed enough energy to crack a moon. How is that possible?" Jake smiled at her enthusiasm. "I'll have to let our scientists explain the details, but it has to do with layered energy fields and quantum resonance dampening. We've been working on defensive technology for a long time." Dr. Blake moved through the crowd of alien refugees, treating injured civilians with gentle efficiency. She had brought universal medical scanners that could analyze any species' biology and determine the best treatment. The alien children especially seemed drawn to her kind manner. Danny Phillips was already deep in discussion with the station's chief engineer about repair procedures. Despite the language barriers, engineers seemed to speak a universal language of technical problems and creative solutions. "Your people are remarkable," Zethkar observed as he watched the humans work. "Most species that develop such powerful weapons become aggressive and warlike. But you risk yourselves to save strangers." Jake looked around at the refugees from a dozen different worlds, all of whom had lost their homes to Vrak aggression. "We've had wars in our past too, Commander. But we learned that strength means nothing if you don't use it to protect those who can't protect themselves." Lieutenant Lisa Carter's voice came over Jake's communication device. "Captain, we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth. Admiral Hughes wants to speak with you." Jake nodded to Zethkar. "Excuse me, Commander. I need to report to my superiors." The communication came through on a portable quantum transmitter that Lisa had brought from the ship. Admiral Hughes appeared as a hologram, his weathered face showing both pride and concern. "Captain Morrison, congratulations on a successful first contact," the Admiral said. "Your actions have changed the course of galactic history. However, I need to inform you that Vrak reinforcements are already moving toward your position. A fleet of over 100 ships." Jake felt his heart sink. The Liberty was badly damaged and in no condition to fight another battle. Even at full strength, one ship could not face such overwhelming numbers. Zethkar overheard the transmission and stepped forward. "Admiral, if I may, I have already sent word to the Galactic Council about what happened here. Every peaceful species in this sector is mobilizing their fleets to come help." "That's very kind," Hughes replied, "but our intelligence suggests most civilian fleets are no match for Vrak military technology." "Perhaps not individually," Zethkar agreed, "but together, and with human leadership, we might have a chance." "Captain Morrison has shown us something we had forgotten. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is stand up to a bully." Dr. Voss had been listening to the conversation with growing excitement. "Admiral, if you're willing to share technology, we could upgrade our ships with human weapons and shields. My people have been developing new alloys and energy systems. That might complement your designs." Jake looked at Admiral Hughes. "Sir, request permission to begin immediate technology exchange with our new allies. If we're going to face the Vrak again, we need every advantage we can get." Hughes considered for a moment. "Permission granted, Captain. You have full authority to negotiate military cooperation agreements. Earth is sending the Fifth Fleet to reinforce your position, but they won't arrive for 2 days. Over the next several hours, something unprecedented happened in galactic history. Humans and aliens worked side by side to prepare for battle. Dr. Voss and her team shared their research on advanced materials with Danny Phillips. In return, the humans provided shield generators and weapon blueprints. The station's workshops became a hub of frantic activity as mixed teams of engineers worked to retrofit alien ships with human technology. Species that had never cooperated before found themselves united by a common purpose. Jake walked through the station corridors, amazed by what he saw. Althari children played with human crew members, their universal translator devices allowing them to share games and stories. Dr. Blake worked alongside alien medics, learning new healing techniques while teaching her own methods. Lieutenant Kate Sullivan was training alien gunners on human weapon systems. Despite the language barriers, the universal principles of tactics and strategy translated well. Kate found that many alien species had excellent reflexes and spatial reasoning skills. Commander Zeth Carr found Jake in the observation lounge, looking out at the gas giant and the approaching ships of their new alliance. "Captain, I wanted to ask you something that has been puzzling me." "What's that?" "Why did you risk everything for people you had never met? Your species could have remained hidden and safe. Why reveal yourselves for our sake?" Jake was quiet for a moment, watching, as an Althari repair ship worked alongside a human shuttle to fix the Liberty's damaged hull. "Because hiding and staying safe isn't really living, Commander. We realized long ago that the only way to have a universe worth living in is to make sure everyone can live in it safely." Zethkar nodded slowly. "I think I understand. Your species fights not because you enjoy war, but because you believe peace is worth fighting for." "Exactly," Jake replied. "And now we're not fighting alone." 2 days after the battle at Kepler Station, ships began arriving from across the sector. First came the Althari Defense Fleet, 12 sleek vessels that gleamed like silver in the starlight. Then the massive cargo ships of the Kellian people, their holds converted to carry weapons and supplies. The insectoid Zephyrians sent their fast scout ships, while the peaceful Marani contributed their advanced sensor technology. Captain Jake Morrison stood in the station's command center, watching the Allied fleet grow stronger by the hour. Each new arrival brought not just ships and weapons, but also hope. For the first time in decades, the peaceful species of the galaxy were standing together against the Vrak threat. Commander Zethkar worked at a tactical display, coordinating the fleet positions. "Captain, we now have 47 ships ready for battle. Not large by Vrak standards, but each one has been upgraded with human shield generators and weapons." Dr. Lyra Voss looked up from her engineering console, her face bright with excitement, despite the lack of sleep. "The technology integration is working better than we hoped. The Kellian ships especially benefit from human armor plating. Their natural thick hulls combined with our defensive systems make them nearly indestructible." Jake nodded, impressed by how quickly the different species had learned to work together. In just 2 days, they had created something that had never existed before, a true galactic alliance based on mutual respect and shared values. Lieutenant Lisa Carter monitored communications from her station aboard the Liberty. The ship was still undergoing repairs, but its advanced communication systems made it the perfect command center for the growing fleet. "Captain, I'm receiving word from the Vrak Advanced Scouts," Lisa reported. "They're transmitting on standard Dominion frequencies demanding our immediate surrender." Jake activated the fleet-wide communication system. His voice would be heard on every ship in the Alliance, translated into dozens of different languages by the universal translators that Dr. Voss's team had improved with human technology. "This is Captain Morrison to all Allied vessels. The Vrak are demanding our surrender. I want to make something clear to everyone listening. Humanity has been watching the Vrak destroy peaceful worlds for decades. We've seen them murder entire populations and enslave whole species. Today that ends." Through the communication link, Jake could hear sounds of agreement from across the fleet. Species that had lived in fear of the Vrak for generations were finally ready to fight back. Chief Engineer Danny Phillips worked tirelessly in the Liberty's engineering section, coordinating repair efforts with alien technical teams. The diversity of the group had led to breakthrough innovations. Zephyrian precision tools combined with Marani energy systems and human materials science to create upgrades none of them could have achieved alone. "Captain, the Liberty will be ready for battle in 6 hours, Danny reported. "The alien engineers have been incredible. They've come up with solutions I never would have thought of." Dr. Susan Blake had established a field hospital on Kepler Station, training alien medics in human emergency procedures while learning their techniques for treating different species. The medical bay had become a symbol of cooperation, with beings from across the galaxy working together to save lives. War leader Thekmor commanded the incoming Vrak fleet from his flagship, the Dark Destroyer. He was Krax's replacement, chosen, for his ruthless efficiency in previous campaigns. Unlike his predecessor, Thekmor was not driven by rage but by cold calculation. "Report on the enemy forces," Thekmor ordered, as his fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. His intelligence officer consulted her sensors. "War leader, we detect 47 ships of various designs. Most appear to be converted civilian vessels. However, they are broadcasting energy signatures consistent with advanced defensive technology." Thekmor studied the tactical display with interest. The species of this sector had never cooperated before, yet here they were, united around a single space station. "And the human ship?" "Still present, sir. The vessel called Liberty appears to be undergoing repairs but is operational. These humans destroyed an entire Vrak fleet and survived a planet-killer attack," Thekmor mused. "They are clearly more dangerous than previous intelligence suggested. We will approach with caution." Aboard Kepler Station, the Alliance leaders gathered for a final strategy meeting. The room held beings that would never have been in the same space before the Vrak threat brought them together. Commander Zethkar of the Althari, Captain Vexilla of the Kellian Defense Force, Hive Leader Zix of the Zephyrians, and Elder Counselor Mira of the Marani. Jake looked around the table at faces that ranged from humanoid to insectoid to energy beings. Despite their differences, they all shared the same determination to protect their people and their way of life. "The Vrak fleet consists of 112 ships," Jake began. "They have us outnumbered more than 2-1. But numbers aren't everything. We have better technology, better coordination, and something they don't have." "What's that?" asked Captain Vexilla, her translated voice carrying the deep rumble of Kellian vocal cords. "We're fighting for something we believe in," Jake replied. "The Vrak fight for conquest and domination. We fight for the right of every species to live, in peace. That makes us stronger than they can imagine." Hive Leader Zix clicked his mandibles in agreement. "The swarm understands collective strength. Together we are more than the sum of our parts." Elder Counselor Mira's energy form pulsed with agreement. "The Marani have foreseen this moment. When different voices sing in harmony, they create music that can shake the foundations of the universe." Dr. Voss had been working on tactical projections and looked up from her data pad. "Based on our analysis, the Vrak will likely try to overwhelm us with sheer numbers. They'll send waves of ships to test our defenses before committing their main force." Jake nodded. "Then we need to make sure the first wave is the last wave. We hit them hard and fast, show them that this alliance isn't going to break under pressure." Lieutenant Kate Sullivan joined the meeting via communication link from the Liberty. "Captain, our weapons upgrades are complete. The quantum torpedo launchers have been calibrated for the new targeting systems that the Zephyrians provided. We can now track and hit multiple targets simultaneously." "Excellent work, Kate. All ships, prepare for battle. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every peaceful species in the galaxy that deserves to live without fear." As the Alliance fleet moved into formation, Jake thought about how much had changed in just a few days. Humanity had revealed itself to the galaxy not as conquerors, but as protectors. They had proven that strength could be used for good, and that different species could work together toward a common goal. The Vrak fleet approached like a dark cloud of death, but Jake was no longer afraid. They had something the Vrak could never understand: the power of unity and the courage to stand up for what was right. The two fleets faced each other across the cold emptiness of space, like ancient armies preparing for the battle that would decide the fate of the galaxy. War leader Thekmor commanded 112 Vrak warships, each one a masterpiece. of destruction designed to break worlds and enslave populations. Captain Jake Morrison led 47 vessels from 6 different species, united by hope and determination. Jake stood on the bridge of the Liberty, now fully repaired and upgraded with technology from their new allies. The ship's hull gleamed, with Kellian armor plating, while Zephyrian targeting systems enhanced its weapons. Marani energy cores provided more power than the ship had ever known. "All ships report ready, Captain," announced Lieutenant Lisa Carter from her communication station. "The Alliance fleet is in formation and awaiting your orders." Through the main view screen, Jake could see the massive Vrak formation approaching. Their ships moved in perfect coordination, black hulls bristling with weapons that had conquered dozens of worlds. At their center flew the Dark Destroyer, Thekmor's flagship that was twice the size of any other vessel in either fleet. War leader Thekmor studied his tactical display with cold satisfaction. The alien alliance looked impressive, but he had faced desperate coalitions before. They always broke apart when the real fighting started, each species ultimately caring more about their own survival than their allies. "Begin the attack," Thekmor ordered. "Send the first wave to test their defenses. I want to see how well these different species actually fight together." 20 Vrak cruisers accelerated toward the Alliance formation, their weapons already charging. These were experienced ships with veteran crews who had participated in the conquest of 7 star systems. They expected to scatter the alien defenders. Within minutes, Jake watched the approaching enemy ships and felt his heart rate increase. This was it, the moment that would determine whether the Alliance was real or just a hopeful dream. "All ships, hold formation. Wait for my signal. The day." Vrak ships opened fire at maximum range, sending streams of plasma bolts and fusion missiles toward the Allied fleet. The weapons lit up space with deadly beauty as they crossed the distance between the fleets. "Incoming fire," reported Lieutenant Kate Sullivan from the weapons station. "Impact in 30 seconds. Jake waited, watching the tactical display as the enemy weapons approached. At exactly the right moment, he gave the order that would change galactic history. "All ships, evasive maneuvers, execute pattern Delta." The Alliance fleet moved as one, each ship following a carefully choreographed dance that had been practiced for the past 2 days. Kellian heavy cruisers rolled to present their thickest armor to the incoming fire. Zephyrian scouts darted between the larger vessels, their speed making them impossible to target. Althari ships provided covering fire while Marani vessels charged their energy weapons. The Vrak attack struck the Alliance formation, but found empty space where ships had been. Moments before, the coordinated movement made their targeting solutions worthless, and most of the enemy fire missed completely. "Return fire," Jake ordered. "Show them what we've learned." The Alliance fleet unleashed a devastating counterattack that combined the best weapons technology from 6 different species. Human quantum torpedoes guided by Zephyrian targeting systems struck with perfect accuracy. Kellian particle beams enhanced with Marani energy cores cut through Vrak armor like paper. Althari gravity weapons, upgraded with human power systems, crushed enemy ships from the inside out. In the first exchange, the Alliance destroyed 8 Vrak cruisers and damaged 6 more. War leader Thekmor stared at his tactical display in shock. No coalition of peaceful species should have been able to fight with such precision and power. "Impossible," he muttered. "How are they coordinating so effectively?" His communications officer provided the answer. "Sir, they're using a shared tactical network. Each ship knows exactly where every other ship is at all times. It's like they're fighting as a single organism." Dr. Lyra Voss had designed the tactical network by combining human quantum communication technology with Zephyrian hive mind principles and Marani consciousness linking abilities. The result was a system that allowed the Alliance fleet to fight with perfect coordination. Commander Zethkar commanded the Althari portion of the fleet from his flagship, the Silver Dawn. Captain Morrison, the first attack wave is retreating. They were not expecting such resistance. Jake smiled grimly. Then, let's give them something they really won't expect. All ships, advance to attack formation. We're taking the fight to them. The Alliance fleet surged forward like a pack of wolves, their diverse ships working together with deadly efficiency. The Liberty led the charge, its human weapons carving a path through space. Behind it came the converted cargo ships of the Kellians, now bristling with enough firepower to threaten battleships. War leader Thekmor realized that his initial assessment had been completely wrong. These were not desperate refugees hiding behind a space station. This was a real military force that could threaten the Dominion itself. All ships, full attack, he ordered. Destroy them before they can do more damage. The main Vrak fleet moved, forward to engage, and space erupted into the largest battle the galaxy had seen in generations. Weapons fire crisscrossed between the fleets like deadly fireworks. Ships on both sides took damage and returned it with interest. The Liberty found itself targeted by 3 Vrak heavy cruisers at once. Their combined firepower would have overwhelmed any single ship, but Jake had allies watching his back. A Kellian. Battleship moved to intercept one attacker while a squadron of Zephyrian fighters swarmed another. Lieutenant Kate Sullivan worked her weapons console with the precision of a master artist. Each shot was perfectly timed to exploit weaknesses in enemy shields or armor. The Liberty's guns spoke with deadly authority, reducing Vrak ships to expanding clouds of debris. Chief Engineer Danny Phillips managed the ship's power systems with help from a team of Marani energy specialists. Their combined expertise allowed the Liberty to maintain full weapons and shields even under heavy fire. Dr. Susan Blake worked in the medical bay, treating wounded crew members with techniques she had learned from alien healers. The diversity of medical knowledge available in the Alliance meant that injuries that would have been fatal before could now be healed. As the battle raged, it became clear that the Alliance was not just holding its own, but actually winning. The coordination between different species, combined with their technological advantages, was proving too much for traditional Vrak tactics. War leader Thekmor watched his fleet being systematically destroyed and felt something he had never experienced before: fear. The Dominion had always won through superior numbers and ruthless aggression. But these aliens were showing them something new: the power of cooperation and shared purpose. "Sir, we've lost 30 ships," reported his tactical officer. "Their formation is still intact and advancing on our position." Thekmor made a decision that would have seemed impossible to any Vrak commander. Signal the retreat, fall back to the edge of the system. But Jake Morrison was not about to let the Vrak escape to threaten other worlds. "All ships, pursue the enemy. We end this threat today." The final phase of the battle was more like a hunt than a military engagement. The Alliance fleet chased down fleeing Vrak ships with relentless efficiency. Some enemy vessels tried to surrender, but Jake remembered all the worlds they had destroyed and felt no mercy for those who had shown none to others. 6 months after the Battle of Kepler Station, Captain Jake Morrison stood in the observation deck of the newly constructed Harmony Station, watching ships from dozens of species dock at the massive facility. What had started as a desperate alliance between a few peaceful worlds had grown into something that would reshape the galaxy forever. The station orbited a beautiful blue world that the Alliance had chosen as their new capital. Representatives from over 50 species now worked together in the Great Council chambers, creating laws and treaties that protected the rights of all sentient beings. The age of conquest and domination was ending, replaced by an era of cooperation and mutual respect. Dr. Lyra Voss walked up beside Jake, her red hair now streaked with silver from the stress of recent months. She carried a datapad filled with the latest technological discoveries that had emerged from interspecies cooperation. "The new medical research is incredible, Jake. By combining human cellular regeneration techniques with Althari biomanipulation and Marani energy healing, we've essentially eliminated most diseases." Jake smiled at her enthusiasm. Lyra had become the head of the Alliance's scientific council, coordinating research projects that involved hundreds of different species. Her energy seemed limitless when it came to learning new things and solving impossible problems. Through the station's massive windows, they could see the Liberty docked at one of the military berths. The ship had been upgraded again with the latest Alliance technology and now served as the flagship of the combined fleet. Lieutenant Kate Sullivan had been promoted to commander and now led the Alliance's tactical training programs. "Any word from the Outer Rim?" Jake asked. "The VRAC. Dominion is collapsing," Lyra reported with satisfaction. Without their ability to bully weaker species, their entire power structure is falling apart. Most of their former slave worlds have joined the Alliance or declared independence. Only their core systems remain under Dominion control. Jake nodded, feeling a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. The VRAC had chosen their path when they decided that might made right. Now they were learning that cooperation was stronger than conquest, but the lesson had cost them their empire. Commander Zethkar approached them, his blue skin showing the calm contentment that had become common among Alliance members. The former, station commander, now served as the head of diplomatic relations, helping new species understand the benefits of joining their growing coalition. "Captain Morrison, we just received formal applications for membership from 12 more worlds," Zethkar announced. "The Galactic Council is meeting tomorrow to review their requests." "Good news," Jake replied. "The more species that join us, the safer everyone becomes." The three of them walked through the station's corridors, passing busy markets where beings from across the galaxy traded goods and ideas. Human children played with alien youngsters, their laughter translating across any language barrier. The universal translators had been improved to the point where communication between species was as easy as talking to a neighbor. In the medical section, Dr. Susan Blake worked alongside healers from 20 different worlds. Her techniques for treating trauma and injury had been enhanced with alien knowledge, while her compassionate bedside manner had become legendary throughout the Alliance. She had trained thousands of medics in the principles of treating any species with dignity and care. Chief Engineer Danny Phillips ran the station's massive engineering department, where the greatest minds from dozens of worlds worked together on projects that would have been impossible for any single species. They were developing new forms of faster-than-light travel, energy sources that could power entire solar systems, and defensive technologies that made war obsolete. Lieutenant Lisa Carter, now promoted to commander, headed the Alliance's communication and translation services. Her work had made it possible for beings who had never heard of each other to become close friends and trusted allies. The breakdown of language barriers had led to breakthroughs in art, music, literature, and philosophy. Jake paused at one of the viewing ports that looked out toward Earth. His home world was no longer hidden from the galaxy, but had become a symbol of what could be achieved when strength was used to protect rather than dominate. Human colonies were spreading throughout Alliance space, but always as partners rather than conquerors. "Do you ever regret it?" Lyra asked, following his gaze toward the distant star. Revealing humanity to the galaxy, Jake thought about all that had happened since that first distress call from Kepler Station. The battles they had fought, the friends they had made, the enemies they had faced down. Most importantly, the peace they had built together. "Never," he said firmly. "We could have stayed hidden forever, safe and isolated. But what kind of life is that? Now human children will grow up in a galaxy where they can travel to any world, learn from any species, and know that they're part of something bigger than themselves." Elder Counselor Mira materialized beside them, her energy form pulsing with gentle warmth. The Marani leader had become one of Jake's closest advisors, her ancient wisdom helping guide the young Alliance through its growing pains. "The future paths are becoming clearer," Mira said in her melodic, translated voice. "The choice your species made has created ripples that will spread for thousands of years. Darkness retreats before the light of cooperation." Through the station's communication system came an announcement that Jake had been waiting for. Admiral Hughes' voice carried across the Alliance networks, speaking from the bridge of the New Earth flagship, the USS Unity. All stations, this is Admiral Hughes. I'm pleased to announce that the last VRAC raiding fleet has been neutralized by combined Alliance forces. The rimward territories are now completely secure. Peace has been restored to the galaxy. Cheers. Erupted throughout Harmony Station as beings from dozens of worlds celebrated together. The threat that had hung over the galaxy for generations was finally ended. Children could grow up without fear, artists could create without censorship, and scientists could research without wondering if their discoveries would be used for evil. Jake felt a hand on his shoulder and turned to see Commander Zethkar smiling at him. "Thank you, Jake Morrison, for showing us that the strong can choose to protect rather than dominate, for proving that different species can work together as equals, for giving us hope when we thought all hope was lost." "We all did it together," Jake replied. "Humans just provided the spark. You and all the others provided the flame that lit up the galaxy." Dr. Lyra Voss was already making plans for new research projects that would involve species they hadn't even made contact with yet. The edge of the galaxy is full of young civilizations just developing space travel. We could help them skip the warlike phase entirely and move straight to cooperation and exploration. Jake nodded, looking out at the stars that no longer seemed cold and distant but warm and welcoming. Somewhere out there were species that didn't even know they were part of a vast community of intelligent beings. The Alliance would find them and offer them friendship rather than conquest. The Liberty powered up its engines for another mission, this time carrying diplomats and scientists rather than weapons and soldiers. Its crew was mixed now, with humans, working alongside Althari, Kellians, Zephyrians, Morani, and dozens of other species. They were no longer just a human ship, but a symbol of what could be achieved when people worked together. As Jake watched the ship depart for the unknown regions of space, he thought about how a single moment of courage had changed everything. They had received a desperate call for help from strangers and had chosen to answer it. That choice had led to the greatest alliance in galactic history. The age of darkness was over. The age of cooperation had begun. And somewhere in the vast galaxy, other species were discovering that they were no longer alone in the fight for peace and justice. Help would always come when good people called for it, because that was what the Alliance stood for. The stars themselves seemed to shine, brighter now, as if the galaxy itself was celebrating the dawn of a new and better age.